being here on the snow day, right? And for having this important conversation. We have representatives from all over, from various sectors. We have the panelists from all over, from various sectors. I'm going to introduce them briefly. But just to save time, we also have their bio on both the screens. So you can continuously read if you miss the first time. And the second thing is we have some quizzes in between. And I played it strategically, so I don't want to see you guys sleep. I'm just kidding. You guys do get a gift. So Hari's gonna hand it to you if you get it right. And I'm Nazira, and thank you so much for coming today. And you all can see us? Okay, good. We have Anand as our first panelist, and I'm gonna give you guys. If you give me, excuse me for one more second. So you're gonna see me doing impromptu things. Right, because it's a snow day. So Pat Smith, who agreed to be one of the other panelists, just joined us. And I'm going to ask Shalu to help me with putting one chair here. For the reason the person who was the other panelist couldn't make it from the south end. So Pat Smith is here, whom I think wears several hats, will be very important to this conversation. So thank you, Pat Smith, for joining us. And I know we didn't even give you a second to rest, but thank you for driving all the way from south. From south.
There's another Pat also here.
There's also another Pat here. Okay. So Anand is a person whom I know from past 2 years. Very intelligent, very soft, very humble. So this is what you're going to hear from me because this is how I know them personally, right? And he will make your mind. He'll make you think, okay? He'll speak a few words and he'll let you speak. And then in a few minutes you'll realize you're the only one speaking, right? So he listens. He listens to you. And he is called as a marketing guru. He, at such a young age, he's done a lot of stuff, but has been a mentor. And we do have a 17-year-old, you guys. So he's going to be coming to you guys to mentor him. So we do have one person in our audience who's 17 years old. And so thank you, Anand, also a serial entrepreneur, for you being here. Heidi Guzman is someone I know from past 5 years through work, and she has been awesomely leading Hispanic coalitions. When we talked 2 or 3 weeks ago when I asked her to be on the panel, we said great minds think alike because she started her own entrepreneurship called the Guzman Psychotherapy in History Corners. And you'll hear from her perspective. Officer Mayberg, guess what's his first name? And I'm sure you all must be wondering what's going on. Guess what's his first name?
No.
Madhusudan. And you're going, wow, really? Yeah. So the first time I didn't believe, but it took me some time because I completed my... It's very hard for a person to sort of very Indianish name, Madhusudan. So, but Officer Mayberg is our community outreach officer at the Johns Creek Police Department, and he'll get a chance to, he wants to tell us a joke about something, so he'll definitely tell us and keep us laughing, but also keep us safe and give us some tips on how to be safe, right? So Officer Mayberg, thank you so much for being here. Has attended to many, many needed families, especially in the Johns Creek area. And as we start discussing, we'll discuss the challenges that women face, but also the challenges that men face and how he has contributed to a positive outcome in those situations. Kim is my new friend. I know her from past 2 or 3 months, Kim. And we have a lot in common. And sometimes you think the person next to you is really smiling, has the best of the life, but believe me, we don't know the history, the journey the other person has gone through. So when I talk to young people, I always tell them to be less judgmental. If at all best, don't be judgmental, but at all, if you need to, just be less judgmental because we don't know what a person has gone through. And that's something we're going to discuss on the way. But Kim is a lawyer for 20 years, has her own law firm. She works out of the office here and is also financial investment advisor. She's gonna definitely touch into the basis about what investment or financial independence a man or a woman can achieve in their life and why it's important. Yul is someone I know from past year or two. If you all don't know the Summit Counseling Center, there's a Summit Counseling Center on Old Alabama Road. They do counseling services. But I specifically asked Yul, because you'll see why, and he starts answering some questions. And Yul is special because he's crazy about cars, classical cars, yeah. And also he grew up in a farm, right? We get to see many few people. So Yul, thank you for being here. We also have Sri Baba and Upaluri. Surprising, the world is so small. We know each other through a WhatsApp group. And then I somehow liked the way she expressed from her perspective. I said, can you be on the panel? She said, yeah. And then she said, do you know that I've attended your daughter's birthday 8 years ago? Like, no way. So we lost touch and we got back in touch. So thank you so much for being here. I don't have to introduce Tab Smith a lot because wherever she's here, she's there, I'm there. She's adopted me as her beloved daughter, and but also a person with so much of knowledge and experience, and we'll give it straight to your face. I mean, that's not right means it's not right. I can't go around her to say anything. So thank you so much for being here. And I would definitely like to acknowledge Pat Jackson, who is also coming with her from the South. So thank you so much, Pat, for being here. Can you just lift your hand? I like to pull her leg. Thank you, Pat, for being here. The first question is for the audience, right? Why do we call it a mother tongue? Anyone gets a gift, whoever answers it. Why do we call it a mother tongue?
Because mothers are the one who teaches the language to kids.
The mothers who teach the language. Any more guesses?
Dads don't get a chance to speak.
Yay! Because the understanding is fathers seldom get a chance to speak, right? Hari, I guess we're going to inaugurate our gift giving to Shalu first, who's also going to be on coming up as an actor.
I want to hear a round of applause.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with the panel discussion, and the agenda is the panel discussion, and then we'll have a drama, and then we'll open up to Q&A, and please participate. This is some serious stuff, even though I'll try to introduce humor into it, because sometimes laughter helps us cope with many issues in the community, but please ask questions towards the end or in between, if it's, and I'm open, you can definitely ask questions in between, and help yourself to tea, dhokla, pakoda, and chana chaat. So don't, as we are speaking, it's okay. I know it's not going to be too much of noise. So please feel free to do that. Shwayamji, you just came in, so please go help yourself for a good tea. And this question is for all of us, okay? I won't answer it. If the genie came up to you and it says, hey, Anand, you get a wish, okay? Thinking about the topic that we are discussing today, what would you ask the genie? And you just have one wish. What would you ask the genie? And something for all of us to think about, because this question is for all the panelists. Something that you want to think about, maybe it's a challenge and you want the genie to help you address the challenge, or something might be out of the blue. You say, hey, this is what I need to a genie.
I think I would ask for, that's an interesting question. And in considering the context of our conversation today, I think I would ask for empathy, or being an empath. Because I think one of the things that I have the most difficult
Can
time.
you all hear him?
Yeah, can you all hear me? Okay.
Here's the mic.
Oh, I'm good. I'll vocalize a little more. I do speak a lot more than that. One of the things that is challenging, I am in marketing, I do a lot of entrepreneurship and mentoring, but also in relationships with my wife, my parents, my kid now, I really have a challenge trying to understand what they're feeling or what they're thinking, or try to get their perspective on things. And, even though I've been doing that for a long time, it's interesting that I would love to be able to just automatically know what people are feeling so that I could either address it or react to it or be able to understand it. And I find myself actually filling in the blanks in conversations just because I'm trying to figure that out. So yeah, I'd love to be an empath or have empathic, empathic abilities to be able to just know right away what someone's feeling or who someone's feeling.
I know you asked that of the genie, but if I can ask you a question following that, Anand, is I used to practice medicine in India, but I was over relating to the patient, and I'm sure there's a word for it. And I would cry in front of the patient. The patient would start telling me stories, and I had such, I don't know if it's a weak heart or what do you call it. I guess I'm an empath, because I felt overly for it. And I couldn't take it at some point. I said, I can't do this anymore. I want to prevent miseries from happening. So do you think there's a line that we can draw? How do you define a moderate empath? Is someone who can understand, who doesn't understand now? Because you're going to get it. The genie's going to give you.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get into my stage where I was.
Well, I guess what you're saying is you don't want to get overwhelmed. So assuming I could really be able to get into someone else's head, I don't want to be overwhelmed, right? And I think one of the things, and maybe hopefully we'll get into this topic later on, is you still want to be self-aware and be able to have your own definition of your own identity. And I think that really helps you understand where you are in this conversation and where you are in the relationship. And because if you lose yourself, then you really can't help the other person. The analogy I use is, when they tell you on the airplane, if the oxygen mask comes down, that you need to help yourself first. It sounds very selfish, but the reality is that now you're more empowered to be able to help others. Because if you're knocked out, then you actually become just as much of a liability as instead of being able to help someone. So I think self-awareness, I don't know if this is where you're hoping to get to, but being self-aware and being an empath, I think will probably go hand in hand, because otherwise you will be overwhelmed or you'll get lost, and that's not very good for you in that relationship.
Very nice, thank you. And then Heidi, so the genie is here giving you a 1 minute or two to ask for what's your wish.
You beat me to empathy, definitely, but I
Do
think
you want to use
tolerance.
the- do you want to use
I
the-
think, I'm sorry, I have a soft voice. I think I thought about empathy right away because I'm a therapist. I always have to have very empathy present, and I have to be very aware of empathy. But I will also say, for the use of society in general, tolerance. It's one thing to be empathetic and to feel the other people, and at the same time be tolerant. It's comparing your own value, your own structure with them, and I would add understanding to that. So it's kind of it starts with you very deep inside, and it goes back to the person, and then it goes back to you to a level of understanding and self-awareness. What do you have? How do you identify with that person, and what is it from them that you always, what is it in people that you can find in yourself, and what is it in them that you can find yourself in them as well? So that will be my addition to empathy.
Very nice, thank you, Heidi. Officer?
My first question would be, what's the catch? But I'm just a skeptical person, but one of the things I always try to check myself is humility, because a lot of people judge. They see someone on the street and they say, oh, that's just a hobo, that's a street person, he's just and then you actually get to talk to them and see who or why they are there. It doesn't take much. I mean, one little thing in our life, we could be that person, and too many people lose their, they make a lot of money, they get aborted, and they forget to be humble. It just keeps things simple,
Very nice. So officer, have you had, nice point, have you had challenges with dealing with communities who called on you to address the same thing that you just talked about, the community?
I worked 5 years in Atlanta, in predominantly downtown, and a lot of people would cast stones, a lot of the street people. And one of the things that I always remember working in Atlanta is, when one of the homeless persons would disappear, I just assumed they were either dead or in jail. And then one day, one of the guys I used to talk to, he came back, he gained weight, he's healthy. So where have you been? He said, oh, I was in rehab, I got myself clean. I said, well, what are you doing back at the homeless shelter? He said, oh, I'm trying to get my friends and show them that there's a way, that they don't have to live this lifestyle, and that there's another way. And that's really humbling to see him come back and try to help, because it would have been easier for him just to live his new life, you know. So, you know, that's kind of.
Very nice, touching story, and many of the officers could have heard you say that, so thank you for that. Kim Stoller, the question is, the genie is in front of you, giving you a wish for a minute.
Okay, that's a huge question. You know, there are a lot of things that impact us, our family, our church, but the thing that has the biggest difference on someone's life is education. So for me, my wish would be education. Now, we have an amazing school system here, and it teaches our children all about math and sciences and literature, but there is a gap in the education that our children are getting and that we got about finances, about everyday living, about making our home, about living a better life. And so while we have this great educational system about these very important subjects, the really important subjects for living our life, you know, being a contributing family member, understanding finances, understanding legal issues, and not hiding away from these things, I think would spare a lot of people a lot of issues. So the wish that I would have, in addition to the great things that the panelists have already asked for, would be a much more comprehensive education for us and for our children.
Very nice, thank you, Kim, and I think, so imagine the genie is in front of you asking for your wish. If you just hold it up to the mic.
Okay, so everybody covered almost all the aspects of being a good human, but my first thought was common sense, but I would rather say that I would rather ask for a little bit of strength in everybody to get their voice up, because I came from a background where it is so easy for people to get cornered and behave like a victim. And they never come out of it. They don't even want to speak about it. Because they're losing that pinch of strength in themselves, like, okay, I can't speak about it, it's something wrong. So I would ask the genie to put that last pinch of strength which God had missed while making them. So that would really help out for the people to speak, to get that change into them. At least unless we speak about it, unless the victim himself or herself speaks about it, whatever they have gone through, nobody is going to help them out. It is not a miracle that I just whisk a wand and things will change overnight. It has to come from themselves, within themselves, as well as within ourselves also. That will come with that breaking that point in our life. Okay, this is okay, just talk about it. Then from there, we will find the change. So I definitely ask for the path of the strength in everyone.
Very nice, thank you.
They giggle and it takes a few times for certain killers to say, get mad and visualize something and hit it. You know, you can do it. You don't have to be weak, and that's not going to stop a criminal. And it's amazing how you guys, it's in you. You know, I hate when they say, I'm a woman, I'm not strong enough, I can't do something. No, you can. I remember a lady in Addison Place, she opened the door, or her husband opened the door for somebody, and the guy, two criminals came in and started beating him, and the wife came with a pair of pants and started beating the criminals, you know, out of bravery and just sheer ferocity, yelling and screaming, and scared the criminals away, and they actually dropped their little taser thing. So, you know, I see that, you know, just because you're a female, you don't have to be weak. You know, when you get the IRS call, you can tell, you can have fun with them and tell them, yeah, good luck, come get me. Say, send Officer Beeper to pick me up. I mean, everyone's got the IRS call, right? JimmyGreen.com cards, yeah, we've never arrested anyone for the IRS. But it's just empower, you know. You know, if you have to change your tire, you can do it yourself. My wife works in IT, and a lot of the issues she say, you know, she deals with, but she can help me fix my phone because I don't know how to do it. But, you know, I think in Johns Creek, you know, half our population is women, and, you know, a lot of times when they go into a hard time, you're not gonna always get a female police officer to come and help you. It might be a big guy like me that I'm gonna have to talk to. I'll help you. Thank you.
Very nice, thank you, officer. And Kim, that goes to the question where he said half of the women in Johns Creek are, half of our population are women in Johns Creek. And so it must be from many other areas and regionally or in the world. And again, going back to the stereotypes or being underrepresented in some of the decision-making process, might be financial decision-making process, might be what do we do there, do we buy this house, or maybe it's getting better. But do you think it's a constraint on the progress of a society when there's no equality in a decision-making process?
Well, I do think it is a hindrance to really good, well-informed decision-making if you don't have all perspectives represented. Now, women in the United States, we actually end up mostly behind the scenes making most of the financial decisions for our family. Our male partners may think they've got control, but typically behind the scenes, the woman is guiding and helping make those decisions. Now, women, in addition to making most of the financial decisions, we end up controlling most of the wealth because we live longer than our partners. We take care of our children. In many cases, we also take care of our parents. And so a lot of the financial decision-making and the purse holding falls on the women in their families, which is why it is so important for women to understand the basic financial concepts so we can make good financial decisions or well-informed financial decisions for our families, but so we can also pass that on to our children. So, our children end up following our example. And if our example is living paycheck to paycheck or not understanding about the debt, or not understanding, the car loan or the mortgage or the student loan, if that's the example that we are setting, our children will learn that example well, and you will turn around and you will see that same example in your grandchildren. And so it's within our power to change that generationally, not only inform ourselves, but to make the change for our children and our grandchildren. And so I love that women are more and more involved in financial decision-making. Now comes the financial education piece and being more in front of the scenes. We spend a lot of time behind the scenes, but now it's time for us to take our place in front of the scenes so that we set that example for others and other women. So women know, oh, she does that and she can do that, so I can do that. The examples, that we set make other women around us feel stronger and help give them courage. And so we want to be that example for our family and be that example for the women in our community.
Thanks so much, Kim. So are you ready for the question? This is going to be a tough one, but I like to keep it real sometimes. So somewhere recently I read about 3 faces, okay? One is the Facebook face, the other one is the family and friends face, and the third one is the face that only you know and nobody else knows. Which one is real? And series of questions. Is it a relationship or is it ownership? And what is happiness? It's just put into I know it's too much, but I think the answer might be somewhere common grounds. I want you to touch upon each of it quickly.
Well, actually, great questions. I suppose first we start about those questions about the self, which is the real self. The Facebook is by and large what we want others to think of us, and what they want to see in us and about us. So it's an ego trip, designed to make us feel better, usually. What we know about ourselves is, however, is a question mark, because many of the people I know live in a mental state where they cannot answer the question, who are you? When they have either process addictions like gambling, when they are even compulsive internet users or technology users, or caught up in any other compulsive process, or they are compulsive users of substance abuse, of substances, chemicals, tobacco even. But the person who with serious and severe substance and addiction issues lives in a state of mind where they cannot answer the question, who are you? They may have a great Facebook page for others to see, but they can't answer the question for themselves because they're lost in another process. The risk for many women is they lose themselves in their partner, in their business, in their social life. So it's not just about substances, it's about losing their authenticity. And so the authentic self, as I call it, is that self that has the courage to be real in every relationship. On Facebook, there's no pretension. It represents their genuine values and desires with appropriate boundaries that maintain their identity consistently. The authentic person must be truthful, must be bounded, that is, they are not trying to be everybody. They are clear about what their purpose in life is and what they're there to do, if they are so fortunate to know the answer to that. And they have a sense of their personal responsibility, and they have a sense of compassion that connects them with others, and that creates a social self that is genuine. So that's the meaning of an authentic life. Now, what is happiness? Happiness for many is the attainment of that. Those that you know that are the most genuine are those who have found something so satisfying in their lives. They don't need to pretend. They don't need anything else that magnifies them and makes them something they're not. They have adequate self-acceptance to where they can accept their impairments, they can accept their limitations, they can accept their limited intelligence or their superintelligence. And that's the meaning of humility. They can accept that they've had trouble and failed, but they can accept the reality of forgiveness and hope and move forward to create a new life. That's authenticity, and that creates a sense of happiness. I think I could go on, but I shouldn't.
Thank you so much. You also, my lifelong friend, Pat Jackson, always says, do you see this gray hair on me? I don't care about what people think. I'm going to call it as it is. So thank you, Pat, for saying that most often and keeping me real as well. So thank you. Well, that was a very nice response. Shri, do you know anyone who can stand up today and say, I've achieved work-life balance? Or what are the things, what are the missing links in, as women and even men? You know, I'm not trying to separate women out or men out. I think it's a partnership. You can see the probably equal representation in this panel as well. But how do you say someone has achieved work-life balance, or maybe it doesn't exist and we're always striving to get there?
For me, work-life balance is a myth. So I'm like, and of course I don't have that much of experience with what I'm doing right now. I'm too young to answer that question, but for me at this point of time, it is a myth, because I always, for myself, like if I take my own example, I always make sure, like when I enter into the office, I think, okay, I'm not supposed to think anything about my home now. And when I come home, I always promise myself, okay, I'm not going to think anything about the report I sent, the mistakes I made in the report I sent just now. So, and it never happened with me. So with my husband, he's a school teacher, we made it like in the first day itself, like you're not going to talk anything about your students, nor about the system, nothing. And it never happened. We just fight on that. So I don't think so. For me, it's a myth.
I mean, it's probably a process to get there.
Might be, yes. One day we might achieve, on that day I can say, okay, we made it. But at this point of time, yeah, it's a myth to me.
Sure. Sure. And the next person, Pat Smith, the question to you is the young women and men, right? Leadership development and mentoring them to take up roles and positions they've not done before or taken up before. How can we encourage young, because sometimes it starts from young. It's very hard to change a habit when you're 40 and 45 and 50. How do we become advocates or encourage the younger generation, a man to be nurturing, right? A young man that he can take up and be a Mr. Mom at home, and it's okay. How can we encourage and say it's okay for young women to take predominantly the male roles that have been happening throughout? So how does that happen, starting from young?
I think there's an aura of courage that you have to instill in young people. Once they have the basics on a working wardrobe, for example, this is how you dress to get a job. You will learn those job skills when you're on the job, or you've been trained for them in school. The same thing with parenthood and children. Your girls probably look after one another, and that is preparation for later on with how you've treated them so that they see how they will in turn treat their children. The confidence level, the problem there is finding it when you don't have that functional situation. When you run into the dysfunction, how do you undo or overcome those obstacles? How do you get the word out? On Facebook, you mentioned Facebook, I was dying for that. There are people who send out a proper place setting to show people on Facebook, this is how you set a table with 25 pieces of silverware and 17 glasses or whatever. Just so that they see, you reach your audience and you start training them and preparing them. They say, oh, wait a minute, McDonald's uses a white plastic spoon and Burger uses, but they can see, and that is that beginning preparation. To learn how to dress appropriately for an occasion so that you can go to church or wherever it is that you're going. And that basic skill set is what will carry them forward, I think, for any position they may attain in life.
Very nice. This question is for Anand and Shri. Sometimes we say women, gender equity, gender equality, right? Anand and Shri. But do you think it's a paradox? For the reason that there are certain, especially in our culture, there are certain positions and leadership roles that only men take up, such as in politics, in leadership and decision making, especially on few things. If you can tell us quickly from both your sides, and there are reason I'm asking two people from this panel certain questions, how have you changed that norm to the better and say, why not? I mean, why this way or why not that way?
You want to go first?
No, you go first.
How have I changed that? I think, yeah, go ahead.
And you've given a great example with Swati.
Oh, yeah, I guess I am I'm trying to set an example without setting an example. So I think one of the things that Zira and I talk about when we first met was she realized that my wife actually does as much of the finances as I do. She is equally involved in the decision-making process as I am. I do not fear anything about what happens in my life because I know she can pick up and take care of the family and my extended family and her extended family without skipping a beat. We put each other's careers in our own respect, like we respect each other's careers and try to elevate each other. And to give you an example, there was a time when Swathi's been very supportive of me. My wife has been very supportive of me, both in my professional and entrepreneurial capacity. And when we reached a point where it was and at the same time she was doing her education, getting her doctorate, and there was a point where we were both at a decision-making point about my last company got sold, and then she just finished her postdoc fellow, and we were trying to figure out what was next. And the way it worked out was we made a bet with each other. Whoever got the best ideal job, that's where we'll go and what we'll do. And the other person will figure it out. And that's how we ended up doing things like that. So that's an example of that. And I'm also just, I guess another way too that's not family related is we talk about gender equality, particularly in entrepreneurship, a great deal. And there's a lot of emphasis on that. And I think one of the things that I spoke about earlier is while there are a lot of men who are very nervous about having women as a mentee and vice versa because of the dynamic. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is help them, encourage them that there are some boundaries obviously that you have to kind of worry about in social norms, but at the same time, don't lessen your mentorship just because of that reason. And how do you figure that out? So there's we can have a whole panel on just that whole conversation. But I'm trying to help them not lessen their mentoring, whether they like to instill more aggressiveness in some, salespeople, or perhaps, maybe helping some folks try to raise money in a certain way and go after, really go after that pitch. It's interesting that, there's a lot of focus on the women's side, and certainly I'm part of a women-only entrepreneur advisory group. But I think for the guys, we're trying to figure out how to actually interact better, and if I can at least open up some dialogue on that front, that's been helpful. Because I think,
Nice.
We guys still need a peer group to help figure things out too.
Definitely, and that's of course the patience counts, right?
Yes,
Sri.
Anand, you better join my project.
There you go.
Okay, it's completely opposite with my experience. The thing is, in any meeting, if we start, it usually starts with a casual talk. So if the casual talk is sports, so if a woman comes up with like, okay, baseball, this thing happened, they will be all looking at it within this awkward, like, oh, she watches baseball. If they talk something about like scotch, if I say it's better like single malt or anything, if we contribute something, that's it. It means you can make it on their faces, like, okay.
Changed, right?
Oh yeah, it's like, then okay, leave about those things. Like the next part is if we contribute anything towards the project, first they take it as a joke. They'll think, oh, here she goes. The second part is like I'm Miss Arrogant. I'm titled as Miss Arrogant in my team, just because I make sure that I am heard in the team, and why not? I'm getting paid for it. So not only me, just any woman, whoever speaks, she'll be like, okay, is she going to stop? Or when is she going to stop? If she starts talking. Then the most interesting part is like they'll come up with something like, okay, let's talk about manicure. I was like, who is talking about, like, we are not in teens or plastic Barbies who are talking about manicures and pedicures anymore. We are enough mature, don't they see my gray hair? So these are the things which I see on a daily basis in all the project meetings. It's not in one time, but the other best part of the hilarious thing is once they come out of the meeting room, they just pretend to be the most, the set example of gender equality. Like they are like, oh, I really like, she spoke, like I know what they talk about me or about my colleagues who are women, then they'll be like, after coming out, oh, she gave an amazing example of what has to be done in the project. What were you doing in the room then? All these days you were kind of back talking about me, and all of a sudden I became an idol. So I don't think so. Most of the things, it comes out of the example. Of course, I saw very good men who are like really set examples. Whereas I also saw I saw many women who actually don't let other women talk. Yeah, they'll be like, they give all the importance to, okay, Peter, let's talk about this. Like when it comes to finances, as she spoke, I never saw even my own manager when I was working for Wells. She herself, she like, when it comes to the balance sheet, anything, she'll be giving it to the all to the male category. Like, oh, you take care of the balance sheet. So like, why not? I know my numbers. So.
So there needs to be more work done.
Yes,
to-
it really needs to be work done on it.
Very
It's
nice.
not, yeah, it's not a simple task, but
Sure.
yes.
But it's good to speak out and like how you are setting examples to say, hey, I know my numbers. So it's better, what you're saying is to speak out when we experience such.
Yes, we all have our self-respect, so it's better respect our self-respect first, rather than
Right.
working only for the money. So,
Okay, sounds good, thanks Sri. The next question for Heidi, Officer Mayberg, and Kim is how has cultural differences, has it ever been an obstacle in your job to understand or explain to the person, and they're not wrong, your clients are not wrong, but because of their cultural differences, they've grown up in a certain way. Has that been an obstacle in any of your jobs?
I would say that it has not been an obstacle so much in my job as in my personal and social life. Sometimes you you face those challenges more in the social setting, your children's school. It's surprisingly, it's out of the professional sphere, it becomes problematic, I think. But going back to your question, and I say this because, just to give you an example, we moved from one school to another school this year, from East Roswell to Roswell, to a fairly big private school. And the very first week, one of them says, yeah, I want to remember your name. What is your name? And I say, Heidi. And she was like, oh, you don't look to me like a Heidi. So I'm gonna call you Moana. Just like I went, Mom, do I look like Moana? So it's incredible. It's just, and I thought immediately, I have to do something about this because that's the school my kids are going to. And I went and I talked to the principal, to the head of the school, and we started a diversity committee, and I had to completely start looking at their policies about everything, and it was totally new to that. A school that is 25 years already standing, they didn't have any policy about diversity, inclusion, admissions, nothing. So I think we're doing a better job in the professional aspect, in both, I guess, in nonprofits and in the corporate world than what we're doing in real society, in our lives, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. So I think we have a pretty good already. There is an ongoing conversation about diversity and inclusion at the professional level. We are having it now. We don't have those conversations.
In our social
Where it
lives.
really matters, if you think about it, where we are impacting the lives of our children.
Very nice, but I'm glad that you decided to do something about it. And I think that's one big lesson for each one of us here, is if we see injustice, especially affecting our children, and that's probably one of the questions I should have put it inside, as where's that village that used to raise children, right? And it's become like our individual society right now. But I would like for the question to be continued by Officer Mayberg and then Kim.
One of the stories I was going to tell you earlier is this week my daughter's calculus teacher, Miss Pravahar, requested to meet her because my daughter was, struggling in calculus. Exchanged emails with her. When I send my city email as my first full name, what is it?
So then,
Yes. So I met Miss Pravahar, we talked. Miss Pravahar told my daughter, she said, I really thought I was going to meet an Indian female. I was so surprised to see me. It is, it really is. One of the things in Johns Creek, they recently said we're one of the 6th or 7th most diverse city in America, which I wish the Fulton County Commission would realize that. It's a political jab at them. But in Johns Creek, as a police officer, my co-workers, we meet people from all over the world, different cultures every time. Sometimes when we go to your home, it's not because you want to invite me in and give me just meet about neighborhood stuff. It might be a coworker because something's gone wrong, there's a crisis. And in our subdivisions, we can meet everybody, and it's very hard as a Johns Creek police officer to know the difference between someone from Pakistan versus Telugu to North India to Korea. We struggle. Another thing we struggle with is some of your kids. They're in different worlds. They got the old country and the new country, and it's really hard, for these officers to understand the cultural differences of why do you care that your daughter is dating someone that's not from your same part of your old country, So it's very challenging, And, when it comes to a lot of my coworkers don't understand about arranged marriages, and marriages are not about two people that love each other. They're about, some of the cultures, it gets tough, and then a lot of times when we come, it's always the man that wants to talk to us, and the lady of the house will always hide and not talk to us or disappear. So sometimes we need to talk to the other people. So it is very challenging in Johns Creek, and I think that we're trying to get our officers. You can never, when you think you've met everybody, you meet someone else.
Sure. So follow up to that question before Kim gets to it is, you think, has it got better? I mean, for you personally, to address such, overcome such obstacles from 2 years ago? Are you getting better?
I think it's getting better in Johns Creek because, one, we have officers that stay here that, if any officer in Johns Creek that doesn't know what Diwali is, it's like, where have you been? But I think our chief has brought in diversity training to try to understand and get to know. We try to invite our officers. I went to Wilson Creek when they had their international night. They try to get us to come and learn because, I would like our officers to learn before something bad's happened, and you don't want us in your house.
Very nice. So one of the questions that one of the pointers you're giving us is have more of those international events, either in your own subdivision, invite police officers so they can learn more about our cultural norms.
Correct.
Okay.
And when you slice the pie in Johns Creek, there's so many different layers inside of it.
Very nice. Thank you. Kim?
Well, first of all, I want to say, I think the Johns Creek Police Department is just one of the best police departments in the world. You all are awesome. And second, I love that Johns Creek is so diverse. I learned so much from different cultures. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. Now I'm half Filipino and half American, as my family says. So I grew up in the 60s in a biracial family during the Vietnam War when I looked very, very Asian. And so it did, at a young age, I had to learn to be very protective of myself because there are people out there who just don't appreciate diversity and may not be open to learning about different cultures. I loved raising my son, who's now 21, here in Johns Creek, because he met people from China and Vietnam and India and Pakistan and Alabama. He met people from all over. And so it was just a great experience for him to see that and not feel that his difference isolated him. Whereas in Kentucky, in the small town I grew up, it was very isolating. Now, what came of that is to sort of not make that so obvious or a hindrance to me. I had to become very, very professional. So I'm a lawyer, I'm a financial person. I don't see myself as a child of a biracial couple. I don't really see myself as a female. I'm a lawyer. I'm a financial person, and that's who I am. And being that very, very professional person and earning respect and earning the promotions, led me to become the president of one of the largest broker-dealers in the United States, the largest broker-dealer for Transamerica. And when I looked around, I was the only female in that position, and certainly the only child of biracial couple in that position. And it was then that it kind of hit me, oh, you really need to talk about this stuff because we need more women. We need more diversity in the securities industry in financial services. And so it's been a little bit of a struggle for me, to become more of my authentic self in front of people. Because growing up, I had to be very careful that, because people didn't accept those things about me. And I've been learning over time that society is changing and society loves the authentic self. I mean, there's so much reality TV out there. Society loves that stuff. And so it's been wonderful for me to be able to share about being Filipina, about loving Filipino food, about being the child of a biracial couple and what that means, about raising a son who looks more like me than his American father, about being a female in male-dominated industries. And for so long, I've been kind of quiet about that. I haven't talked about it, haven't addressed it. But now is the time. More than ever, society is open up for us to talk about these things and to be our authentic self. It is embraced. And so I really, when I first had lunch with Nazira the first time we met, I felt this automatic kinship that we are these very professional women who are our goofy, authentic selves, and just loving that part of us that I've kind of had to keep under wraps for a long time. And so it's been a help to me. It's been wonderful to be able to talk to people about differences and how it makes the story better, and it makes the teaching better. It makes the community better. And I just love being part of Johns Creek and love being friends with you, Nazira.
Thank you. Now I have a goofy next to my name.
Yeah. And, she tells some very interesting jokes, doesn't she? At the last event, she told a joke about Filipinos. Yeah, I had to what are you talking about?
Yeah. So with 5 more minutes to go, I'd like to wrap this up because we do have the skit going on next. But to the important question coming from Pat's side there, and probably a 30-minute response, 30-second response from each of us, 30 minutes, right? So Pat, the word abuse, right? And this is a question for all of us. What comes to your mind? And what are your final thoughts? Because I don't want to come back and ask for final thoughts of this panel, but abuse.
Abuse, punched in the face while you're asleep by a jealous husband. Abuse, not having food to eat in the morning before you go to school. Abuse, getting arrested for something that you may or may not have been guilty of. Abuse comes in so many forms. Segregation, separation, abuse in its highest order. The undertones, it's not something you can overtly address. It stings more than if somebody calls me a nigger, I can say something about that. But I can't say it when the 3 of you go sit over there and I'm sitting here by myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to, your final thoughts on the panel or the discussion we've had so far?
I love it. Whatever I had to pay to do this, I'll write you a check. I've met some of the most interesting people. I've heard some thoughts and expressions that I never would have been able to articulate myself. And I thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pat. So these are events that we started holding every month for the reason that I get so many calls on many of the things that people need help on resources. And is this normal? Is this abnormal? How can I get help? Is there someone who can talk to me? And so, I've been thinking about topics that we could talk about openly, and if not now, then when, right? Why do many of us have to suffer through many things when we know that someone else is going through the same thing and we can talk to them about it? So there's no cost to participate. We want this to happen more and more. And networking, you never know how many of you are going to connect with Arnold or Officer Mayberg, and that's what we're all about connecting. Sri, what comes to your mind when we say the word abuse, and your final thoughts on the panel?
I don't want to talk anything about the word abuse.
Do you want to?
Oh, yeah. So, I really don't want to talk about the word abuse, but about this panel, I want to say it's a lot of hope. I see a lot of hope because like my life is full of the ups and downs. It's almost like a pretzel, but when I see the people talking so much, now I can see like, okay, whenever I see somebody like me, I can tell them that, okay, when I was there was nothing, nobody to help me out, nobody to drag me up, but when I see them, then I can say, okay, there are people here who can help you with whatever you are having, and you can trust them. So there is a system to trust. So I see hope.
Thank you so much. You all.
Well, when I hear the word abuse, it describes two people, the perpetrator of the abuse and the victim of the abuse. The victim may not ever ask for help, but is more likely to ask for help than the perpetrator. The victim is more open to help than the perpetrator. So for the perpetrator, there's treatment. There's assessment of how severe this is it a long-term pattern, and there's a way to help that person become more human. For the victim, also, there needs to be an assessment. How severe is this? How long is it? How chronic is it? And there can be return to humanity for the victim.
Very nice. Thank you. Any final thoughts on the panel?
It's wonderful to hear the diversity of thought, the diversity of feeling about the same subjects. I think sitting down and having hours of this, there are a lot of solutions that can be developed.
Very nice. Thank you.
When I hear the word abuse, I think, there are people outside of us who may be perpetrators of abuse. And there may be that person inside of us, that voice inside of us that abuses us as well. And so I would just say to everybody, that negative voice you may have inside of you that is abusing you and saying negative things to yourself, don't listen to that. Listen to the better voice inside of you that says you can do this, and you are worth it, and you are important enough, you are smart enough, you are good enough, you are the right person. So don't listen to that voice inside of you that abuses you. And it has been a real honor, Nasira, to be part of this panel and to hear all of these great perspectives and to meet so many of you all in the audience. And I'll just say, I've got a little brochure on the registration table if you want to pick it up on your way out that just describes some basic financial concepts. And just thank you all very much.
Thank you. Officer.
Abuse, I've seen, all spectrums of it, like what you address is the person that's being abused. I love when they come forward and are brave to say something. So many times I can see it in their eyes where they're wanting to reach out and tell me, but they're so afraid to. But when they finally come forward, and then the abuser looks at me, because it's easy to abuse someone that's small, weaker than you, that you have power over. But when it's someone like me that you can't control me, and I'm probably bigger than you, and the pen is mightier than the sword, and that is sometimes the way to get them help, both people, But I like the panel, so strong ladies, you guys. I love power, just because you're a lady does not mean you have to be weak. And I wish Sergeant Debbie Kalish could have been here to tell you that, because she does work in a job that's male dominated, and don't let you guys be fooled. She's tough.
So to follow up that comment, I asked Officer Kalish why aren't there defense classes for men? Why does she only teach defense classes for women? And she just laughed out. She said, we need it. The men don't need it. But Heidi, why don't-
And I'm just holding the bag, trying to get you to yell at me.
Heidi.
Just because I talk a lot about partner abuse, but just because I've been seeing it quite frequently in my office lately, I want to talk about the subtle abuse of gender identification with our teenagers. I've seen a lot of struggles, a lot of depression, a lot of suicidal ideation just because parents are not accepting gender identification or gender conflict with our teenagers. And I think that goes back to your comment about education. I think our teens are really having a hard time struggling with that issue because right now they're talking about so much about this fluidity that is going on, and they're so confused with so much content out there, what they are struggling inside of their minds. And the biggest struggle is not how sure they are about their sexuality and their gender identification, but as much as they are from their parent refusal, negation, and just completely ignorance about what is going on at home with their children. So that subtle abuse of not being able to identify the true self of your children is something that I've been struggling with a lot lately.
Thank you. Heidi.
Oh, about the panel, you all have been wonderful. I've learned so much, and I kept, like I said in our preparatory call that we had, it's amazing how any woman, any person that we serve can benefit and can basically in any path of life basically touch all of us in a certain moment. And it takes a village. Any person, any youth, any adult, any couple, it actually goes through so many different points, and we can absolutely help anybody at any moment in their lives. And we don't necessarily have to be the hired person or has to be identified as that role in the community to be able to help anybody when we touch their lives.
Thank you, Heidi.
I'll actually use this for my last one, but when I know abuse is a pretty harsh word, but I also think about the more subtle, I think, parts of that, which is the metaphor I'd like to use is a lion locked in a cage. And I feel like there's a lot of times when many of us walk by, like to see a lion, but we really don't even think about how we could unlock the cage and unleash the beast within all of us, right? In terms of the passions we have, or the opportunities we're trying to look for, or maybe the help that we need. And sometimes we do it to ourselves. And that's part of the reason why I think the village concept, or being able to understand that we are a community and we want to work together and we want to help each other, but we also have to encourage each other, even when sometimes it may not seem like we want it, just to explore, because I think if you try and fail, it's better than not trying at all. And then as far as the panel, I really enjoyed the diverse mindsets here. I really did. It was really nice. I knew when Nazira asked me to be a part of this, I was certainly very honored to be a part of it, and I'm always intrigued in hearing different perspectives, because it's always inspiration for what I can do as well. So
Very
thank you,
nice.
and thank you all, and appreciate all coming out on a snow day.
I know, thank you. So one question for the audience, hurry, it's gift time. The US Postal Service does not picture living people on its postage stamps, right? A person will not be considered for a postage stamp sooner than the blank years after his or her death.
10.
Who said that? Arnold? It's 10 years. Did you all know that before? Yes, you have to be dead for 10 years to get on a postage stamp. So I would like the following people to come to the stage as I call out their names, so they have the honor of giving the gifts or a plaque, or what we have for the panelists for taking their time out today. And the next transition is to Shabana, who's going to read out a poem, but I said I want all of us to be standing together when she reads that poem, because it has that intense message what a woman goes through, and definitely what a man goes through. Sometimes he's not able to express it, so I would like for all of us to stand when she reads that poem. But before that, we would like to thank you for your time, and I know maybe one or two of you have to leave, but don't miss the drama, the family drama that's going to happen in a few minutes here. And we have, and then we'll open up the questions for the audience to ask the panelists or even the people who acted in the drama. So next we'll have Nisha Khandelwal, if you can come to stage, Cheryl Desbergs, Vivek from Siemens, Jafar Gadia, Kamlesh Chugh, Swapna Kaswa and Anil Bhargava. I would like for you all to hand out, and you all have been here because you all are playing a unique role in your lives. Kamlesh Chugh is our, she's won the, she recently won the pageant grandma in New Jersey. So she's been doing it all, she's not giving it up. So if you can hand the gift to her, you want to help me? Kamlesh Chugh, you want to give the gift to Anand? Yeah. Yes. Cheryl, if you can hand the gift to Heidi Guzman. Cheryl is from the Georgia Department of Public Health, and she's also working with the vital records, which defines the death certificate and the birth certificates, right? So next we have Nisha Khandelwal with Officer Mayberg. Thank you. Next we have Vivek, who's taken out his time from his busy schedule, works at Siemens, to give to King's Fuller. Swapna Kaswa for UO Hardman. Swapna is a community advocate. Jafar Gadia is an advocate again for equal rights for women for Sweden. And then finally we have Anil Bhargava, who is like very quiet but does a lot in helping community members. So thank you. And now to move forward, Shabana, why don't you help us with the transition? And if we can just stand, I guess, just all of us when she's reading her poem. You can read it from using this one. Why don't you come here? Because it just, and whoever handed the gifts, you're welcome to join us. I just felt it'll be more immense the way she has written her poem out. Yeah. Shabana Syed.
Hello everyone. The poem is about all of us.
Y'all can sit, it's just us. But just listen to the intensity. Sorry for disturbing.
So the poem is probably about all of us, and it's the distress and the problems and the sufferings and the sorrows that we go through at some point of our lives, but we come out finally. I don't know whether we come out victorious or I came out victorious or I didn't, I don't know, but we keep going. So the name of the poem is I'm Going. Break, 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 break her until she's dead. Cried my peers in ecstasy at my grief, at my pain. I roamed lonely in the crowd. I walked secluded like a half-eaten moon. I cried, I wailed, I shouted. A mad dog was a better peer than those humans. I cried lonely, embarrassed, ashamed, frightened, and nervous. I waited and waited for my ecstasy, but it never came. I cried and roamed lonely. I learned, I lived alone. I wandered alone aghast. I died deep inside me. I lived through the unknown moments of the known city, and then I saw a ray of hope. And that was me, the very essence of me. I asked for life to life. Life said, look into your heart, and it's full of life. I learned life and love, and I laughed and laughed until I cried aloud. I wiped my tears with determination. I embraced my pain. I embraced life in the shell of life. That made me go on. Now I go on. The flowers are gone, the thorns are also gone. The people are gone, the bars are gone. And I am going, and I will live, and I am living. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Shabana. And she just finished her, she's doing her final semester, but she wrote this poem in one day, just to present to all of you. So thank you again, and keep up that talent of yours. So as the panelists, I know, Heidi, you have to leave, but thank you so much again for all of us. If I say one final thought from this panel, we find we have to be self-aware, and the answer is within us. Encourage ourselves and have the strength within. Does that sort of summarize? Start from within, start from us, and then help and serve and encourage and show the strength, right? Okay, awesome. So we'll go and sit in the front stage, and I would love for the actors who are going to perform the drama, and we're going to move this table and the chairs.
Hari is on his way back home, very stressed. You have a mail. Dear Hari, I regret to inform you that some of your team members are laid off from the position as of December 15th. This should be considered permanent layoff. Thank you, team members, for their valuable contribution. My best wishes for success in their future endeavors. Sincerely, management.
Sorry. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah, I'm coming, okay?
where are you? It's so late.
I'm not going to sleep on the road. I'm coming.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, bye. I'll talk to you.
Hello?
Hello. Hey, hi Sheila. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Yeah, hi Sheila.
Hi.
Is this Raj Malhotra's residence?
That's correct. Who's calling?
I am assistant principal from Rivertrail Middle School. My name is Vivian.
Hi, Miss Vivian.
Mrs. Malhotra, I regret to inform you that Raj has been suspended from school.
Are you talking about Raj Malhotra in 8th grade?
Yes, Mrs. Malhotra, I'm talking about Raj Malhotra.
Suspension? What happened, Miss Vivian?
He started a fight in the school cafeteria today.
No, not Raj.
Well, I would like both of the parents to meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and I can give you all the details.
But you know what happened? Was there anybody else present in the cafeteria? Any
grown up?
I cannot give you more details, but he spit on one of the students in the cafeteria.
Miss Vivian, please listen me out.
I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Thank you so much. I'll see you. Bye.
Goodness, what's happening with this kid? What am I supposed to do with him? I have no idea. Raj! Raj!
Yeah, Mom.
Come downstairs.
For what?
I need to talk to you.
I don't want to talk to you, Mom. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you, Mom.
What's going on here? Your
Nothing.
principal called.
Nothing. I don't know.
Just come out, open that door.
For what? I don't want to come out.
Goodness! You're driving me crazy.
I didn't do anything, Mom.
Your principal called, you're suspended from school.
So are you saying you believe someone else, not me? I didn't do anything.
Well, I'm sure she's not kidding. You spit on somebody.
I did not do anything, Mom. Just leave me alone.
She said you spit. We are not a family of goons spitting around people here.
I
you
don't
would have
know.
done something. Who started that fight?
I don't know, Mom. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Open that goddamn door!
No, I don't want to.
Let your father come in. He'll fix you straight. You don't want to even answer. All the day you're just locked up in that stupid room of yours. You do.
Hey, Sheila, एक कप चाय यार.
Jai, I don't even know what's there for dinner. I just have good news.
Oh, good, good.
Your son got suspended from school. We have to go meet the principal first thing in the morning.
Gee, very good. Then.
Yes, he spat on somebody in the cafeteria.
Hey, my son.
Yes, Raj.
Who told you that?
The principal called home.
Look, you're in the principal.
Yes, he's not allowed at school tomorrow. We have to go meet the principal first.
What were you doing? I mean, what nonsense is this, man? Come on, you're supposed to take care of this, okay?
I don't know what to do with this boy. He won't talk to me.
You don't know. He won't talk to you. Now, what am I? Some kind of genie? I mean, come on. This is your thing, okay?
It's not my
It is.
thing. I
don't have to tell you every time.
You need to spend
You
some time
need
with
to
him.
do some time. Look, you need to do it because you're the mom.
Well, being mom doesn't solve it. I don't know what to do with him. He wants to stop. He's been sitting up in his room all day. He won't come out.
Who will in any presence of mind will go spit on someone? It must be something.
Hi, honey. How are you?
Oh, absolutely fine. Sheila, look who's here. Oh.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Hi, Radhika. Come in, have a seat.
Hi, Sheila. I am actually in a hurry right now. I have come to give you an invitation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Your birthday?
It's not my birthday, but my husband is turning 40.
Oh,
It's a big birthday for him, and I would love both of you to come, please.
Yeah, but tell me one thing. He's 40. How did he marry a 16-year-old?
Don't forget, honey. Don't forget, I'm a nutritionist too.
Oh, okay. But listen, you need it. But
Please, I'm in a hurry right now.
She makes great samosa. How come you can get 2 samosas?
Oh, that's okay. How about you make that for the party? That would be great.
Absolutely. She can make a biryani too. I mean, she can make.
Samosa is good. Samosa is good. Thank you so much. I will catch up with you guys later.
Listen, you are pretty good, huh?
Oh, thank you.
You're pretty and good. Huh?
You're too much. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.
Anytime. You need anything, she'll have, okay?
Not the same. Whatever.
I really don't know what to do about it. Do you want to go talk to him?
Why should I talk to her?
Well, you can run away.
Look, there are things that you need to take care of, and some things going on too, okay? Look, fix it, all right? I need to go.
You're just going to take off? You're just leaving? Well, that's convenient. That's very convenient. Hello?
Hello. Hey, hi Sheila. How are you?
Hi Anjali, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Did Hari tell you something about? Did he talk to you something about his office?
No, what is it? He didn't tell, he didn't say anything. What
Yeah.
happened?
I heard that something going on at his office and they have fired some people from job. Is it true?
No, he didn't say anything about it. I have no idea.
Oh, I heard Raj got suspended from the school.
That's not true. Whoever told you, that's not true.
Yeah, it's okay. I just heard at bus stop that some people were talking about it.
No, that's not true. Some misunderstanding. It's Raj.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, if you let me know if you want to meet principal because she is my best friend, I can help you in that.
No, we are good. There's some misunderstanding. Well, thank you. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Weird. It's rest like rumor.
Hey, you heard that Raj got suspended from the school?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, one masala dosa, please. One coffee also. Water, no ice. Indian. Hey, Mom.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, Hari, how are you? How are you, son?
Good, good.
Tell me what happened. Where are you?
Yeah, hey, look, I can't talk right now. I'm in a restaurant. Okay,
Yeah.
waiting for the dosa, Mom. I miss your dosa.
Oh, so you are eating outside, right? Yeah. So where is your wife? She didn't cook food for you? She's such a lazy lady. Why did you marry her? She's such a piece of crap. Why don't you leave her?
No, let me call you. Let me call you. You know, I'm sorry. Cancel the order, please. Huh. I'll be back. Huh? What do I want? I don't know. I don't know.
Raj, such a bright student. But he, so stupid, so shameful, suspended. I don't know who to blame. What are these parents doing at home? It's all about studies, no social ethics. Maybe there should be a program in the school for family orientation, so that when the immigrants come, there's a family orientation and we all get together to learn the ethics of, to be a part of a melting pot.
I have my dad who is always busy with the work. He is busy with the travel. He is busy with the travel. He is busy with the conference calls, with the meetings. And my mom who is always busy with cooking, groceries, beauty parlor, and whom can I talk to who can understand my feelings, and have all my friends in the school who are bullying me. I have nothing to do but sit in back of the room and try to understand what can I do for myself.
But I'm the woman in this role, and the mother.
And what I feel is there's just too many expectations from me. Everybody wants me to fix problems. Well, I'm not. The kids are born. I'm not given a manual. I learn as I go. Don't expect me to fix all the problems. I don't know what goes on. In many cases, the women and the wife immigrate to new lands with their husbands because it was their husband's dream. It was a career advancement. So when we move, I'm not saying we make a big sacrifice because we leave our careers behind. We leave our families behind. We leave our village that was supposed to help us raise our kids. We leave everything. I'm not saying it's a big sacrifice, but I say I do it because I make my family a priority. I make my husband a priority. I do it because I love him. In return, what do I want? All I want is make me a priority sometimes. Find some time for me, just for me. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just sit down, let's fold laundry together. Just have a cup of tea. And just for once, don't expect me to be perfect. Just let me make mistakes. Allow me to learn on my own. Make me a part in decision making. That's all I want.
I'm a very brave man. Nothing scares me. One thing does. 4 words. As soon as I come home, especially. And those 4 words, we need to talk. I tell myself I need to run. I have been born to fix things. I like it. So what if there is an issue? Let's get it, fix it, move on. But my wife, she likes to get me into a fix. What is this big deal about Raj and his fighting with someone, and we have to look at his emotions, and I need to talk. You know how I would deal with it? Raj, give a slap to that guy, shake hands, get back to work. Where is all this sensitizing coming from? He's a man, he's my son. But I know that's a pretense. I know she's not feeling well. What more can I do? I don't want to tell her the problem. I don't want to see that look on her face. I don't want to look like a coward. I don't know. I don't know.
And we just formulated this. How much of it related to any of you? Like, that's what I did, or that's what I do. Can you raise hands? So it did a bit, right? And this is just normal family. They're not actors, professional actors, but
They
this
can
is...
tell we're not professional.
I didn't know until you said something.
Yes, so but we're all, it comes out to say we all have that leadership in us. We don't have to look upon someone else. Let's develop those talents and skills within us to make such things happen, but also question with the message, what went wrong. You are the panelists. What are the questions you have for them?
Dad, what would help you not run?
What made me not run?
What would help you
what will help?
to not run?
Non-trauma problem.
I know I'm still Hari Malhotra, the dad of Raj, okay? A silent reassurance instead of a vocal one.
Very nice. Kim, do you have a question?
So, Dad, what happens to your beautiful family if something happens to you?
That's a fear I have, and I don't know the answer. That's my deepest fear.
There are a lot of families who are in the same spot. and you have to think about those things, and moms have to participate, because we want to make sure that mom and your son are taken care of.
Pat has, Anand, after you, Pat has a question too.
Go ahead.
Okay,
She just
go
handed it
ahead.
to me, so please go.
Dad, as the leader of the house, the one who barks out the orders for mom to take care of, there's a certain level of courage that you're going to have to muster up and fess up to. You owe it to your family honesty, no matter how difficult it may seem. Keeping mom in the dark and her feeling overwhelmed and dumping all the responsibility on her doesn't allow her to share with you as an equal partner in the marriage. None of the group are equal. They're not sharing anything with each other. I think that might be something to take a look at.
Can we please give a great applause? And can someone please ask someone else a question?
Anand, go ahead.
So, Grandma, where is she? Which one? There we go. I heard the comments over the phone about what you think. What do you want for your future daughters and children to, experience in terms of being a part of this family? What is it that you hope them to aspire to be as part of a unit, as opposed to just success as an individual?
Definitely love, and the fight is between the generation gap, always the grandparents and the parents, because they think that they are right in their own way, and they feel they are right because they have experience. So they think that even though her son is a 40 years old or 45 years old, so she thinks that anyway he is less experienced than her. So she just wanted him to follow her direction in all the way, and the fight becomes more fight when it comes to the grandchildren, because there is a more generation gap. So that is the thing which is going on between the grandparents, the parents, and the grandchildren. Normally we see the 3 generations, and in society we will find the 3 generations, and they just all are dissatisfied with each other, right? They think that she is right. They think that she is the children think that they are the older people and old-fashioned people. So they are labeled as a old-fashioned people. So this hurts them the most, that when the kid says and when the grandchildren says that you are old-fashioned, this hurts them the lot. Very much, they feel very bad about it. So they always try to connect with the family with love, and they want that their children and their grandchildren should accept them. They should not call them as an old-fashioned. So that is their fight, and they want to keep them united with love and with respect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to invite the Aurora family that I adore so much. Auroras, why don't you come forward? Because you are actually spreading the love and hope to the younger generation like us. Please come forward to the stage. We would like you to hand the gifts to our professional, I'm going to call them. So if anybody wants to get their autographs right away. So these are a loving couple that I've adored so far. Come on to the stage if you can. Uncle Ji, come, Auntie. I would like you to hand these to both the men. Uncle, yeah, that's for Hari. So you're passing the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience to the men. They need the most. They need the most.
You get good slack. All men think alike. They both are named as men.
ये आपके लिए है कि मेरे लिए?
Auntie?
Thank you.
Yes, auntie and uncle, this is for you to grow from our side to you all. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. So we need to keep them in our conversations as well for the reason that they figured out how it works all out together. I always ask them, how do you make it happen? And they always give me lessons every time I meet them.
Papa is so good. He gives me a lot of love, tender loving.
Wow.
56 years.
Wow. Shabana, why don't you come forward? Looks like you are the youngest among us. Here's one for you. Thank you so much for the lovely poem and your courage. Keep it going and spread the love. Thank you so much.
You spoiled son.
Okay, everybody, just 1 second, okay?
Mine's
Squeeze a
not
little bit tighter. Just a little bit tighter.
Oh.
Everybody look right here on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3. And one last one with flash. 1 second. 1, 2, and 1 second. 3. Flash didn't go, but I got it.
Thank you so much.
Guys, wait. Guys, wait, please.
Wait,
hold.
guys.
Okay.
Can you clear frame? Everybody in this front row, can you clear frame?
Sideways.
Yes, can everybody scoot just this way, just a little bit. Young lady right there, stop where you're at, and everybody's filling off of her. Thank you very much, right there, all right.
Shweta?
Yeah, there we go. Can you?
We're growing bamboos.
Yeah, it's got to go.
I'm sure bamboo sticks have a significance. Okay. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pierre. Okay, and so make sure you water it. You water it though. So
I want to
before our
answer
questions to
Anand's
the.
question, one more time. I know the generation gap that we talked about, I think there is a hope for the kids. Like, you know, as the parents, we always would like to give them the best. But in order to bridge this generation gap, I think one of the reasons is that because the kids and the families don't interact, is the communication. So when the kids are like not open to you, and then you are not listening, and they are always you are always bossing them around. So it goes from one generation to another. So for me, I have a 22-year-old, and I do want to bridge that gap. I want to be as like listening and understanding as possible, so that any decisions he makes in life, I should be able to respect it, not always judge it. So that's my.
Very nice. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Job well done. So we.
With respect to education, when you spoke about the changes that have to come, I think there is something to really correlate. I mean, with our boy kids and with our girl children, like he's talking about like the pink and the blues, the all-girls party, the all-boys party, and all of that, which they enjoy. But over a period of time, I see that like I did my schooling in India. That collaborative, you know, we used to have like group of friends used to be like boys and girls sitting and doing all the discussions, talking about it. I mean, those individual girl moments used to be there, hang out with your girlfriends and all of that. But here I see the compartmentalization getting wider and wider. And I think that does contribute a little bit when you start going out into your work culture, or eventually that compartmentalization is getting wider at some point. I mean, it's very encouraging to do all those things like the birthday parties, the blues, and I mean my son has stopped picking up the colors. Like he wouldn't do a pink shirt, he wouldn't do anything purple, he wouldn't do anything pink. I think that's also psychological over a period of time. So I believe the educational system, with all the growing needs of children, all that it's trying to accommodate, I think a lot of that has to be seen as a wider topic too. Because, I mean, I'm in the corporate world, I work in IT, I've been extensively on this. I really long for those women peers sometimes, like you're just the only one, like you mentioned, in all those meetings. Unless you really want to be, like what Shree said, you have to speak up, you have to be really doing that to get yourself noticed, and that exists. I mean, nobody can deny that, but it's definitely getting better. So I think there is a lot to do right from the beginning, is what I feel, and education is definitely something that has to work towards that.
Very nice. Any further comments? I think you made a good point. We didn't get your name.
My name is Aparna.
Aparna.
And this is one of my first, meetings here, and I think it's a great effort. Because just thinking out of the box, getting yourself out on a Saturday, some time for yourself, trying to meet people, it's such a rarity today. And I'm very glad I did that. And it takes a lot of effort to do this, and hats off to you.
Thank you.
I agree completely. Education is one of the best ways we have to teach our children these things, to broaden their experience, bring in more perspectives. And I think that education is heading in that direction, but we're not quite there yet. So it is the voices of advocates, the voices of parents, the voices of teachers and administrators to really force that change to the next level. But that is, the place where our kids learn just about everything. And so we need to have input on that curriculum.
Very nice. Any more questions? Yes,
I have a question for you, Nazira. I think considering the area we live in, Johns Creek, it's very affluent. Also, our kids, there's a big population of minority kids out here. And what I'm becoming more aware of is the fact that these kids are being extremely overworked, especially the high school and the college-going kids. They have this tremendous intense pressure that they feel from their parents and their upbringing and stuff like that, where this same education is becoming a big burden for them. This need to get into Georgia Tech and some of these other colleges is posing an immense pressure, and we are hearing of so many kids overdosing and getting down into, they just don't have a way of hope. The drama here demonstrated how the kids are unable to talk to the parents as well, because the parents are really trying to run their life and do something for themselves. I guess my question is, as a society, especially in Johns Creek, what can we do to help these kids? They have everything possible that they could ever dream of, but they are dying inside silently. And that's unfair, because we as a society are imposing that on them. So I'm just curious to know what we as a society and parents can do to avoid this.
Definitely. Thank you for the question, Mindali.
No, I'm not Mindali, I'm Gia.
Gia, sorry. So Gia, the question you put forward is the topic that I've been thinking for the next event.
Okay.
Because the next event, Arvind, was going to be just kids, teenagers, girls and boys, and the same question we are putting to them to say, because sometimes you see that the people who are facing the problems have the solutions already. And we think for them and think that's the solution, but it's not so. And you will attest to that, because the specific question to addiction is something that he's expertise at. So having them at the table and posing the same question would give us more answers than thinking, oh, this is what we can do, oh, that's what we can do. So having them in every decision-making process would help us further understand their model of thinking.
I'm sorry. Teenagers, like physical awareness and all, they are more complex about physical part. So even that, you can deal with that.
Yes, definitely. And before you will answer, we are also creating a resource list. So this is not just come, listen, enjoy, have tea and go. We are also creating a resource list. You will see Kim's name, my name, and you will see 5 or 6 more who agreed to volunteer to say, you asked a question, Gia, and you said, hey, my son is going through this. Is there a mom who's gone through the same thing? So we're creating such a list who can become the support group gradually, not on a professional level, because when you say profession, then you have to pay money, but at least before that professional level, that step where you can just call and say, I need help here. Is there someone you know? And I would say yes. And so that's the list we'll be forwarding as a follow-up. So if you haven't given your email, please make sure you do. I think Kim would agree on the importance of that resource list, where people can call upon her on any insurance or financial advice that they would like. You were going back to the previous question.
Well, there were many questions. If we think of what helps children, we live in a community here which is a small part of a large movement happening throughout our country that's been going on now for over 200 years of people from many nations around the world are coming, in particular coming to Georgia. Right now there are over 1 million people in Georgia that have come in either for jobs or for better opportunities, but they do not speak English. 1 million. They don't have the skills they need to survive in the society to which they are moving. And so this is fragmenting families in a way that is very unusual, and when families are fragmented, children suffer, whether it's from war or breakdown of nations or poverty and diseases. When we lose families, we lose children. Right now, we have people that would come from hundreds of countries to Georgia because of work opportunities. Our government has decided that's a good thing. But families are moving thousands of miles for hope, but it's taking them years before they get centered. They move into a community they've never lived in. They may lose the religious glue that held them together at home. They're moving away from their extended family that loved them and cared for them, that they don't get to see for years. They don't have the legal pathway even to go back and visit them if they have a pocket full of money. This is great suffering in the presence of great opportunity. So this has been happening for nations for thousands of years. And in every nation around the world, historically, whether through war or through opportunity, families are broken down. Children suffer. So moving towards solutions, children do best. We're very clear. Not with better schools, but better families first. So something like this is a small group of people who found a common concern, a common passion, who can learn together, support each other, love each other, and hold on to principles and values that hold them together. Those that are changing jobs, moving from state to state, may lose the glue they had that made them successful as a family. But we're not talking about what helps us to be successful as a family often. Schools don't teach that. Workplace doesn't teach that. Fewer percentages of the population are attending churches, and I've been a pastor 40 years while doing work as a therapist, and I know churches, by and large, do not do that. I believe it is part of the mission of the church to build families, but in this environment, only a few share that purpose. God bless them if they do. The rules I tell families that are struggling, and they don't have a religious core yet. They do not have a common set of principles yet to even raise their own children. They're fragmented by death, by movement, by abuse, by domestic violence, by chemical dependency. they need a new core. Whether they have a religious core that is healthy or they're looking for one. I ask them to go home and build self-respect with one another in the home. Unless mom and dad, or if it's a single parent, start with the rule. Everyone in this house respects one another. Rule 1. That's a value, it's not a belief. We all are devoted to following this rule. We treat each other with respect. The second rule is we are honest with one another. You teach that at home because you can keep children accountable and parents can keep each other accountable. Be honest with one another. The third is no violence. You don't hurt anybody, you don't hurt yourself, but you don't hurt anybody else in this family. In this family, we talk, we don't hit, and we don't steal. You learn to respect what you have, but you respect what belongs to others. Teach that in a home, and they won't go to Kroger and shoplift. Okay? So, and of course, I'm obligated to say, don't drink. Don't use drugs. Don't seek things to make you happy. Learn to find happiness by living a life that is genuine. So those are my rules for living. And frankly, it doesn't matter what your religious life is. And if your religious life goes against those, find a new religion.
Very nice. Thank you again to all of you. And we are holding this monthly. There's no cost to participate. Just being here and your participation is what matters. Trying to improve trying to make healthy communities. So thanks again, all. Yeah.